Well, hello everyone. New project that I'm going to be tackling starting today, and that is one of my Nakamichi. I've got two of them. Nakamichi CR3A three-head decks has started acting up on me. Now this top one I had repaired. It was starting to get sluggish and slow and everything, so I've got a separate video on that one where I took it apart, took the transport apart, did a belt change, cleaned up all the transport mechanism, re-greased everything, and it's been working quite well since. I also did the grounding mod on that, so you can find that in my YouTube channel if you ever have a hankering to tackle doing a belt change. This particular one had a belt change just before I bought it, and it's been performing flawlessly for the past year or so. And it just started to act up on me, and I suspect I know what the issue is. So if I put the tape in, I've got a tape here that I just recorded, and of course none of the transport controls work. It was working sort of intermittently for a while, and then finally it just packed it in, and I have a good suspicion of what it is. There's the loading motor and some capstan issues and whatnot. So I think what's happening is the motors are slowing down, seizing up because of aging grease, and they've probably dried out the bearings and all that sort of stuff. It's an old deck. So I'm going to post the link to this gentleman who did a CR2A, which had the same issues. This is pretty much the same deck, except it's the three-head version, and I suspect the motors are the same and everything. So I'm going to try to tackle this the same manner and same methods that he used, and I'll put the link in the YouTube final video below. So we're going to take this out. We're going to throw it on my bench and start tinkering with this, and I'll try and film as much of it as possible, so it'll be like all my other videos, quite long. But for anybody that's got one of these and wants to see how it's done, and hopefully I'm successful. If not, then I've got a really nice parts unit for this one. So we'll tackle this one and see how it goes. Well, hi again, I'm Tim, and we're at my workbench here. And before I dug into this, I just thought I would let you know that what I am going to do is I'm going to check all the capacitors on the boards here, because I've heard that quite a few of them can go south. They didn't use the best of capacitors on these particular models, unlike some of the previous Nakamichi decks, save the orange cap disease that I think everybody knows about. But anyway, so we'll be also checking the capacitors on it, do ESR checks on a lot of them, and see how many of them we need to replace if they're out of tolerance. Hopefully not that many. And yeah, so we'll cut into actually opening the box, or opening the cassette case, and tackling it from there. So I've already gone ahead and taken the side screws out, and like any job that I do, here are the screws for the case on this particular one. And what I do is I set aside a little container, or a little tub, so when I disassemble things, I like to videotape it. That way, if I have any questions about how it goes back together again, I can always rewind the tapes and watch them. And this one I'm going to try and get in a little bit closer than I have in previous videos, just to give you an idea of how to do the work on the transport mechanism. And so we start by taking off the case, and this one's been apart before, so you can see that they don't have a lot of the zip straps that normally tie everything together here on this one. So whoever it was that worked on this before probably did so in a rush. No matter. What we're going to do in order to remove the transport mechanism, which is right here, we're going to have to undo a number of these multi-pins that are on the board. usually like to mark them. On this one I know where they go because I've done a couple of these. I've also got the CR1 deck as well. And so to remove the transport mechanism, there's a screw on the top, and then there's 2 screws on the bottom. Don't confuse these 2 screws because those just hold on the faceplate. These 2 actually hold the transport mechanism. You shouldn't need to have to remove the faceplate in order to get the transport mechanism out. What we do is we eject the tape mechanism and pull the cover off, set that aside so it doesn't get all scratched up. Pop that back in, and using a good screwdriver, in this case I think I've got an electric screwdriver that I find handy for doing fine work. Unscrew that. And I find it easier to work on if I just pop it upside down, being very careful not to scratch anything. And there we go. Get a little magnetism on it so that it retains the screws out of the well there. And I've got one of these. If you start losing your magnetism with my my electric screwdriver kit here that I got, you can see you get all these types of bits to go in it. And you also get this little chummy, which is a rare earth magnet, a permanent magnet. And what you can do is magnetize the tip just by putting your tip in here. And what it'll do is it'll make it a little stronger to hold screws. And we will remove this one. And there we go. It's fine. Okay. So now we can put it back up. And we will remove, there's the blue one. It's C241, or sorry, can't read the number there. CM12, CN12. We'll pull that out, and we'll pull CN22 out, which is a black and a blue wire. Let's see. There's a little. I want to pull on the wires and cause them to snap. So we'll just pull on the mechanism there. There we go. And there is CN11 over here. Normally I tag these, but I've taken these apart a few times. The other one apart a few times, so I know everything goes. There. And so that's CN11 or CN1 and CN2 are tied together with zip straps. When I put this all together again, I'm going to re-zip strap it again just to make sure. So let's get all the wires here and make sure there's this one, this long one that's tied to CN19 over here on the far corner. There we go. It goes between these two little caps here that had some glue on them. And there's another one here. Oh yeah. And that one's CN10, I think. There, and that's just wound around there. Okay. So I think, oh yeah, and then there's a, right over here, you can actually see a grounding wire that, that connects to the chassis. And what we do is, we can use a, magnetize this one too. Oh. Yeah, this one's not good. This one might be a bit better. There we go. So now that releases the grounding wire, so it's no longer holding the transport mechanism to the chassis. So, and there it goes. And then just being a little bit delicate and trying to remove the transport mechanism. There we go. And out it comes. So that's your transport mechanism. So what we're going to do is stow this out of the way so it doesn't get damaged, and we'll be right back. Okay, we're back on the bench again after I put the deck away and the cover. And here you can actually see the site that I'm talking about. And there's the address of the video on YouTube that I'm going to be trying to follow here. And that's showing the disassembly of a Nakamichi CR2A. And now my tablet here is freaking out a bit. So I'll be pausing and watching the video, and then I'll basically do what he does in kind with this mechanism, which is mostly the same, but it's not exactly the same because this is a 3-head deck, as I mentioned, and that is a 2-head version of this this deck, of this series of decks. So I'll watch a bit, and then we'll try to emulate what he's been doing. All right, I've been watching the video, and I'm finding that they are not as similar as I had expected with between the CR2A and the CR3A. More specifically, this motor here, which is your winding motor, I think, when you first install it, basically it's lower down on the CR2A, and this is all configured differently as well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take apart, and this is the motor I want to get at, and of course these little switches here are down below on the CR2A, so it's oriented differently, but by the looks of the motors they're very similar. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and get at this mechanism here, which is the one I'm suspecting is the problem here. And so what we're going to do is we're going to remove this, and I'm going to actually put these in labeled areas on here. And of course that's going to release this beauty plate here, and you got to be really careful about it because there's a wire here that backlights with an LED so that you can actually see where your how far your cassette is progressing by shining through the window in the cassette. So we've got a small little zip strap here that we're going to release off of this point here, and that should allow me to remove. This thing is a little delicate. I don't want to wreck these feeble little wires here. And okay, so now we can remove. This of course goes through underneath this little sensor switch here, and now we've got the beauty plate off of the cassette mechanism, which you can see there. And by the looks of it, it's all looking pretty good. So you can see the door shut. The mechanism here is moving freely, so I don't see anything that's jamming up there, although we may need to do some further disassembly in order to access some of the mechanisms here. There we go. In his video, there's a similar unit with a little ball bearing here that he pulled apart in order to access one of the motor drives, but I see this motor is actually not hinging on those screws, so I may actually be able to release this motor from the back side. So we will see. And I've been keeping the heads quite clean, so the heads are looking clean. I don't see anything gummed up in there, so let's pop it over on its back on the front and see if we can figure out how this motor can come apart. You see I've got another zipped strap here that ties a bunch of these wires together. So we may need to sever that as well. There we go. Just to make sure I know where that goes from. It goes through that hole right here. I'll just leave the cut one there just so I know where it feeds through. Hopefully that doesn't get bunged up inside. Okay, now I can segregate some of these wires a little bit. Figure out what goes where. So, don't want to risk it. Don't want to have that fall in the mechanism and gum it up, so we'll just throw it in there. Same with that one. Okay, and for the teeny screws that as I disassemble it, I've got a blank white piece of paper that I label everything on, and then I tape them down just so that I know the reverse order in which they go back in. Okay, we're going to try and take this front eject mechanism off the side here, and I think it's just these two screws and also the screw that goes into that held on this beauty plate, which is over here. So I've already removed that one in the last sequence, and then we'll pop those two screws, and then this should pop out to the side, and then I can remove the front eject mechanism. So let's see how we fare on this one. Now let's just make sure I got the right size. Yeah, that'll work. There we go. That's going to go there. And then you can see that's recessed, so it's not holding onto that side panel. And then this is just held onto there by that. And everything else should be free to come out. So these are in quite rigidly. So we don't want to shit. Okay, I don't want to strip that screw. They're in there quite tight. So let's see if we can do it with the tool is a little aggressive, I think, for this. There we go. Much better. Got to use the right tool for the right job, I guess. Now we can go back to this one. There's no washers on those. That's the top. I'll mark it on my sheet. Top, bottom screw. And there we go. This whole mechanism will now come out. Come ça. And as I mentioned, I will leave that on a nice white piece of paper like this, And then that way I know what screws go with which unit. So this is for this unit, and these two screws are for the beauty plate. So now we've got access to the front of the tape mechanism, which is very similar to that video that I was talking about. You can see some of the grease in the back here. It looks like it's still pretty good. It's rolling pretty good. And see the motors, and this thing pivots back and forth. And you can see it's engaging, so that's good. This is tied to this motor right here, which we may have a look at. Belts, as I mentioned, are in really good shape. These were changed out prior to me, but they're in yeah, they're nice and thick and pliable. Same with the drive belt that's down in the bottom here. It's in it's new and in good shape. And really, that's the only two belts that I can see on this baby. They're visible anyway. There's probably another one in here somewhere. I can't remember if I did a third belt on these on my other one. It's been a while now. I'll have to go back and watch that video. Okay, and so now what I want to do is target getting this motor out in this assembly, and this is where I think the problem is with the deck. So we'll watch some more of the previous video and see what we discover. All right, I just watched the video, and even though the motor is located in a different location on the CR2A, it's the same motor, same assembly, it's just in a different position. And as far as I can make out by the video I just watched, there's a screw right here which holds it, basically the assembly in, and then there's a cam down here, and then there's a screw on the front here which is holds the cam in as best as I can make it. I just want to make sure it lines up, and I'm pretty sure it does. Okay, there's a screw on the face plate here, which is right there, which holds the cam. So if I pop that screw and that screw, this whole assembly, this whole motor assembly will come out along with the cam. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to put some apply some power. I'll desolder, decouple the wires going to it, and then we will put 5 volts to it and just see how the motor is running. See if it's chugging, and maybe that's actually what happened in the CR2 is this motor, the bearings dried out and it was not operating smoothly. So let's try that. First of all, we'll unscrew. You got to watch where you're placing your finger. You don't want to muck up any of these delicate screws here. Hopefully this one isn't in too tight. Oh, there it is. It's coming out good. There is a small little small little washer on that screw that you can see there. So that's the top screw, and we will mark that just so I know which way it goes back in. This is the loading motor. And then, so that's that's the bottom. I'm calling that the bottom even though that's the front. Bottom face. And the top is actually the back of the motor, so we will remove this one, this screw. Different size screws on these things. This one does not have a washer on it, and that's the bottom, and the top I should say. And this whole assembly should come out, which it does. And you can see the worm gear there. You can see a little bit dirty, and that's probably where this thing is failing. So we will, and then the other thing is to clean these contacts. And that might actually be part of the problem too, is oxidized contacts there, and the sensing contact over here. So we will be cleaning those out. And there's also some really delicate little washers in here that hold this cam assembly in. And we'll look at the video. And these things, as this rotates, these cams actually cause these contacts here to make contact and operate the assembly. So there we go. This is probably our little trickster right there. So we'll have to remove the cam in order to get to the two screws that are holding in the motor. In the meantime, I got to go get the power supply and get my soldering iron going and decouple a couple of these wires here and start cutting into this motor assembly. Let's do it. All right, like the fellow in the video, what I've done is I've taken the motor out, and this is the negative terminal, this is the positive terminal, and what we're going to do is we're going to apply 5 volts DC to the motor and have a look at the cam. In his, what I suspect is it's going to be not very strong, and the speed is going to vary, which would indicate to me this would be a dirty motor, but I don't know yet. So let's have a try and see what happens. Not even spinning. Drawing 0.053. Nothing. Not even budging. So it could be that this motor is seized, which could be the problem. Yeah, I think that's our problem. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that motor apart and see if there's any issues. We'll clean it and re-grease it and hopefully get it to perform. Okay, what we'll do is we'll try to pull this cam off. I just want to really take it careful with these switches here. Don't want to bung anything. There. So that's the cam that's off. And what we're going to do is try and remove the motor. And see what the problem is. So there's 2 little screws in the front of the motor there. Get some hand tools here to do that properly. Okay, I got this hand precision driver that I use. It's not motorized, so it can't. Man, oh man, oh man. That one came out. Okay. The other one is just a little bit there. to strip this. These things are in there tight, real tight. There, we got it. Had some Loctite on there, and it's really tough to get those things out. There we go. There's the screw. If this one is faulty, I do have a CR1 tape deck that works flawlessly, but if I would rather, this is really sticky grease on here. It's not really well smoothly greased. So it is rotating. Let's see if we can get that motor spinning again. Let's turn our power supply on. We got it down to 5 volts. And our negative terminal's there. This is our negative terminal. And this is our positive terminal. Let's see if we can get that spinning. And now it's spinning. But it's very spinning. Oh, now we got it spinning. But it sort of stops. It's about 39. It's jumping around a bit. So that's what I think our problem is. The shaft on this is extremely dry. So I think what was happening is it was binding a little bit. So we're going to clean that off really good with isopropyl alcohol. We're going to strip down this motor as per the procedure in the CR2A video that will be linked below. And I think what the problem is here is this shaft is not very well lubricated, and it was binding as well. This worm gear here is completely dry, so I'm betting it was seizing up against the cam gear here. What it's supposed to do is the worm gear is supposed to drive this. There's grease all in the outside, but I think on the inside shaft area it's very dry. So what we'll have to do is clean that out and relubricate the worm gear here and the shaft in the appropriate places. A little bit of play in the shaft, and yeah, I think that might be our issue with the loading. So more to follow. Let me watch another video here, and we'll get back on how to do the proper disassembly here. There's 2 tabs in here, I know, that you have to pry apart, and then you have to pull this whole body assembly. It's a big magnet, it looks like, a big metal shield. And yeah, we'll pull the motor assembly out, clean the shaft. This part just is pressure fit, so we can pop that out using this, but let me research it further before I do anything incorrectly. All right, looks like this one's wired differently than the CR2A, because in his video that you see below, he'll say brown is positive and white is negative, but on this motor, brown is negative and white is positive. So I've marked that down on my little trusty sheet over here out of the view, and what we'll do is we'll desolder these two, and there's no need to remove the magnetic shielding here, and then we can remove the worm gear here, or the worm thing with the shoulder facing there, and there's about 2 millimeters of gap between where the shaft comes out and where the shoulder starts on this worm gear thing. So let's get this decoupled. And I think all I need to do is just desolder this. So brown, like I say, is negative on the CR3A, not positive, as he indicated. There we go. And that's the brown. And you can see the positive sign, right, that's the negative sign right there, and positive is over there. So this is tying the cap, and there we go. That's disconnected, and now we've got access to the motor. And what we got to do is try to be very careful with this, and we're using these little side cutters here to pop the, there we go. Oh, one more. You can see there we go. There's the worm gear, and just look at it, and it's very dry. And that's what I suspect is happening. Is the you know, this probably should have a little bit of grease on it and make it mate better with the cam gear. So we'll put this over by the cam for now, and then we have these two little tabs in here that have to be pried apart so we can get at the canister, get at the motor itself. So we'll be back in a sec. Okay, now what we're going to do is lift the two tangs that you see in these two gaps here and pry those open. And I think we need to also pay attention to the orientation here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, so we said brown was negative, so there's the negative terminal. So I'm going to put a little brown sticker on the end here. We can find some scissors on the side that is the negative. And then that way, when I put it back, so that's your negative side. There's the brown sticker. I'm going to do a white one just in case it falls off, because it doesn't look like it's on there too well. And the reason is I don't want to put it in backwards, because then you might end up having the motor going the wrong way. I may be wrong, but that's my worry. And oh. There we go. There. We should expose the brushes in the commutator here. Oh, that pulled that out. Don't want to do that, but That's going to go negative. There we go. Inside the case, looks like it's all clean in there. Of course, we don't want anything inside there to muck things up, especially any little metallic pieces or whatever. And there we have it. So there's the cup. And the brushes. So that's what we're going to clean up in there. Okay. I'll put this on a clean piece of paper so it doesn't get mucked up, and then we'll be right back. Okay, and we found this little washer that had popped out. So I'm going to watch the video carefully. I'm not sure which end of the shaft it goes on, whether it's, it probably goes on this end. It might go on this end actually. But we will look at the other video and see. And it could either be on that end or that end. So we'll make that determination. If not, I'll look in the, if I can't figure it out from the video, then I'll look at it up on the service manual to find out where that washer goes on. All right, thankfully I found out where the washer goes. It's actually sits on the inside shaft here. And what we're going to do is we're going to hit this thing with some contact cleaner, residue-less contact cleaner that doesn't leave any residue. And we're going to clean up all, yeah, a little bit dirty there. And then we'll re-lubricate. And then we'll also clean up the contacts on the other side there. There. It looks like it's a capacitor on there to filter out some of the sparking noises and everything. And we won't put it down in a dusty area. We don't want to pick up any particles on those coils there. Same with this. We'll get some fresh contact cleaner and get in and clean those brushes. Make sure we're not leaving anything behind by way of particulate from the Q-tips. Okay, and I'm going to head back out into my garage where my summertime repairs take place and get some lube for this, and we'll be right back. All right, I thought I pushed play on the thing and I didn't, and so you missed the reassembly, but if you watch that video in the link, it's exactly the same, and the considerations with the worm gear, the direction that it's turning and everything are all true. And so what I did, so now in order, before you put the cam on, you actually have to put the motor back in. So we're going to do that. And one thing I learned was that the worm gear is supposed to pull towards. So I think somebody had this thing apart and wired it incorrectly, for one thing, because it now rotates in the correct direction. And yes, I did mark the direction that this thing should properly be in. This thing's in the way here. And in order to get the worm gear working the right way, and I'm absolutely certain I had it installed, the commutator and the whole assembly in the correct direction, because I marked it. And now in order to get the worm gear going in the right direction, I have to go as he had it, brown as being positive and white as being negative, and now it works properly. So we'll try that, and we're going to have to re-lube, I think, this the cam gear and the worm gear here, just because I don't feel it was properly lubricated, and that's why it was seized, because now I put the motor on it and it's working just perfectly. No noise. I don't want to overstrip these wires, but I don't want them too loose, or these screws, but I don't want them too loose either. There and there. Okay, and we've got the shield in place, and now if I apply, so I got 5 volts, we'll dial it down, it's drifting a little bit, 5 volts exactly. So if I put the 5 volts onto the positive, or the negative terminal onto the there, and then I put this on there, that's going the wrong way. So the worm gear is actually taking, going outward. So the negative terminal is going to go on the plus, and there we go. And now it's going the right direction. So if I put the brown wire to the positive, that will work. So let's see what we can do here. And the white wire is going to go to the negative. And then I'm sure the direction will be correct. All right, let's get this thing to behave. That's on properly. And we'll get the brown in place. The brown on the positive. And then our issues are solved. Okay, now the other thing is we're going to clean these contacts here, and we're going to re-grease this cam, because it looks pretty dry and dried out. So we'll clean it all up and then give it a good re-grease and re-oil. Okay, what I did was I just shot a little bit of isopropyl alcohol through the cam gear here, and then I've greased up this nice little shaft here with jeweler's oil, and let that dry out, and then we will put it on there, and then we're going to pop this out, and then we're going to clean the contacts on this assembly here once we verify that the worm gear is going to be working properly and not stuck like it was previously. And then we will reassemble. I'll lubricate the where the worm gear gets in touch with the cam gear here, and see how that goes. So we'll let that dry a little bit and air out, and then we'll pick it up from there. Okay, so I've let it dry a bit, and I just added a dab of lubricant to the outside edge here and to the inside. And then we're going to ease this into place. And then hopefully everything will line up accordingly, and we'll see if it works. So we will apply this to that, and we will apply some positive or negative, and there it's working nice and smoothly. Okay, just for added measure, I want to get that well lubricated. And it seems to be working good now. Nice and quiet and working properly. There we go. How's that for beans? That's working good. Okay. Turn that off, and then what we'll do is unscrew there, pop that out, and get some paper, soak it in contact cleaner, and then we'll clean that up, and then we can put that back into its spot. Okay, next we're going to clean up this these contacts here, and yeah, hoping we got it correct. So I'm just going to take a little thin piece of paper from an envelope, double width, as you can see. And what we'll do is we'll take this, unscrew it, and just be very careful not to knock these wires loose, as they say in the other video. So we'll screw that out. just use some contact cleaner. And basically just hold it very gently. Very, very, very gently. Clean it back and forth. And clean off those contacts. And then we will reassemble so that it's back in action. Again, being very gentle on those wires so they don't come loose or come broken apart, in which case you'll have to figure out the arrangement. Okay, and then this will screw in nice and snug, and there's a couple of holes at the top there that you want to make sure that they fit in with, and you don't want to damage any of the linkages here. There we go. Make sure that's nice and snug, and then we can reinstall, which is a great thing to do. Okay. Now, the only thing I'm worried about is if I've got the motor direction incorrect, in which case I just have to basically flip those two. Still a little bit worried because this one actually is oriented a little bit different than the CR3A one. And yeah, so the bottom, this one, this goes into there. And there we go. You got it in there. I think we got it. We got it. Mechanism was working. Let's see if we can get it up. There. That works for me. I want to also clean this contact here. Okay. Now, do I want to do the other motor? The motors were working fine. The only thing is the loading motor. So let's give it a whirl maybe. Maybe because I've got the motor set. Let's see. I think I gotta retract the motor. So that's why. That's what I need to do. Retract the motor, and this pulls back, and then we can get this assembly back on. Just like that. So let's extract that. Okay. Okay. So, and then we need to line this up. Like so. There we go. There we go. Turn that off. And now the eject mechanism works. Perfect. Okay. So I'd cycled the motor here with the power supply and in the up position, which of course is supposed to lock this from coming back out. And when I put it on, that lock was in place and it wasn't allowing me to function it correctly. So I've got it in the proper rotation, and now that should work correctly. So happy with that. And now we can rest it on the face here and move on. Okay, now I'm just going to pull this back motor off with the belt assembly here. And you know what? It wasn't on that all that tightly either. I have a feeling whoever took this apart didn't really reassemble it correctly. That's my fear. So let's check his work. Yeah, that was just totally loose. when he changed the belts, I don't think he cinched things down correctly. So there we go. That should I'll just take this belt. This belt looks good. That should lift off now. But it's not. Why not? Oh yeah. I think there's a side screw. Two side screws right here that come off as well, I believe. Okay, that one, and I'm pretty sure might be that one. Might be this one. Yes, sir, that's what it is. Okay, look at that. Looks like those were greased up pretty good. Grease still looks good. We'll keep that in play. Yeah, that one's pretty good. Quiet. Yeah, I'm gonna go with it. Gonna go with it. Grease is still good, although we did get quite a bit of grease around it. Okay.
She wants to text you, that's why she didn't text me back. I'll tell her we'll come in the next hour and a half.
Yeah. There. I'm just gonna clean off the pathways of this belt here. Okay. Let's get this belt around the spindle here. There we go. Much better. Yep, rotating good. Okay, no noise, no knocking. Why mess with it? Why mess with a good thing? So, eject, that's good, that's good. And we will reinstall and see how she works. Okay. Gotta do an errand, and then I'll be back, reassemble, and we'll give it a test spin. Then I'll pull it apart again and check all the capacitors. Alright, now we're just gonna put the beauty plate back on. Feed the wire through here where it came from. Make sure when you put this beauty plate on, there's two little lower lip areas here that ride in the grooves of these pins that stick out below the capstans. And once those are in place, then life is good. So let's see if we can get that baby in there. You can see there's little grooves down here. That's got to fit in. So if it's outside those grooves, you won't be able to close the mechanism properly. The tape in. There, give it a couple of test bursts. Okay, let's go get the deck. Move some of this stuff out of the way so that we can proceed. And we'll move this out of the way. Move this back a bit. Okay, let's try this. Now this is the hardest part, is getting the transport mechanism in there, because there's not a lot of play in there to get it slid through. So, in the meantime, I think I got to put a couple more zap straps on here just to make sure that the wires are going in the proper locations. Grab a bunch of these small zap straps. Okay. Alright, we had one that came through here. And alright, next we put a zip strap around this one as a strain relief. This is for the wire going to the backlighting for the beauty plate. Let's get a smaller one. go. So next, I'm going to put the transport in. And this is always a bugger, getting it to feed properly into here. Don't want to force it. There we go. Got her in. Okay. Whew. Right, now the top screw goes in. Hopefully this will be a fit. There we go. Close that. Flip it upside down. All right. That's what I'm looking for. There we go.
Where you keep these 3 pins.
Man, I'm getting really terrible at remembering to turn on the video. Anyway, after great effort, I've got this reassembled in back into here. I've connected all the marked patch cords into the inside here. Remembering to connect the ground cable. I've got my eject thing here working. We're going to plug this guy in and just see if I've got those 2 wires backwards. If not, we can rectify that pretty quick. I'm going to make sure the power's off. I'm going to go get a tape and I'll be right back. Okay, I got myself a tape here We'll plug it in, power it up. Let's see. Yeah, I think I got those things backwards. So what we're going to do is unplug it. I knew I had it right, but anyway, it is what it is. So let's try this the other way. Okay, let's try that. And now it works. So I did have my suspicions are correct. The wires are wired backwards from the CR2A. And now it is working. Fast forward control works. And we got sound. Rewind is working. And it works just peachy. Look at that. So happy. And it's silent and running true. So, I'm going to hold off on doing the caps for now, just because I got a bunch on order, and there's no point in pulling them all if it's working good. And as soon as I get the caps in to replace the ones I suspect may be a little out of tolerance, I will go through and test them all and take out the bad ones or the questionable ones, and then put it back together, and I should have a tape deck that will last me quite a while. So thank you for watching. I know this was a long video, and there's a little bit of a experimentation for me, but by George, I think I got it. Thank you. Oh yeah, last finishing touch, of course, we got to go back in and zap strap some of these cables that run to the mechanism. We don't want to have loose wires flailing about, especially if I'm moving it. Before I put my hands in here, of course, I've got the unit unplugged. So I've got that one. And then we'll get some more zap straps here to work with. Garbage pieces here. There we go. I'll zap strap that one on too, just to make sure. And let's get these ones. There we go. All right, we'll get the cover. Now on to test. Well, here we go. I got it plugged in, and there we go. Put in a tape, and as you can see, fast forward is working good. Stop, rewind, go fast forward again. And it's working just beautiful. Perfect. As good as one can expect. So thank you very much for watching. And excellent.